Thanks everyone so much for joining this afternoon. For those who may not know me, my name is Gretchen Gilbert and I'm the FundMatch Program Manager with WUSATA. Today we are going to be talking about in-store demonstrations through the FundMatch program. And if you have any questions, please hold them till the end. You can throw them in the chat while I'm presenting and we can go over them, or you can shout them out once we're done at the end. Our agenda today, we're going to get to know WUSATA. We're going to go over what is FundMatch. We are going to cover the FundMatch process. Then we'll go in depth into the in-store demonstrations. We'll talk about claim submission, and then we will wrap up. So for those who are brand new to WUSATA, we are a nonprofit trade association. We have about 40 plus years of exporting focus. And we have a global network of resources, and we are primarily funded by the USDA's Market Access Program. So WUSATA has 3 core programs, and these 3 programs are here to guide companies and meet them at any stage of their export journey. We're here to systematically help them identify markets, connect with buyers, and promote their brand. So our first program is our Export Readiness or Export Education program. That is there to help companies access market intelligence and consumer insights through our monthly webinars and also our monthly reports that we receive from our in-country rep. And then we have our Global Connect program, and that is there to help companies discover new export markets and connect with international buyers, and also increase distribution through targeted activities. So that's an activities-based program. We do trade shows, inbound, outbound missions. And then lastly, we have the FundMatch program, which we're going to talk about more in depth here, but this program is set up for companies to access up to $300,000 yearly in financial reimbursement for eligible international marketing activities. And even more in depth than that, what is the FundMatch program? So FundMatch program is here to assist eligible agribusinesses and agricultural suppliers to compete internationally by providing 50% reimbursement for eligible marketing expenses and activities that promote their brands and products of the USA. So those 2 things are key and core to the FundMatch program. So to qualify for the FundMatch program, you must be headquartered in the Western U.S. region, so the 13 Western states and our 2 territories, Guam and CNMI. You must be a small to medium agribusiness, and this is set by the SBA's size definition. So we go by NICS codes, and we also verify via DUNS numbers. And then your products have to be at least 50% U.S. grown, and you have to be in operation for at least 1 year. So the FundMatch process from start to end we'll review. So ideally you begin with a consultation with one of our engagement executives. We have 4 dedicated engagement executives, and they're broken out by our states and territories. Ideally, you start with a consultation with one of them to set the expectations about the program, get to know the program more and what's eligible and not, and what's required through it. And they can also help you walk through the process of submitting an application. Once you submit an application, there is a one-time application fee. We do accept applications throughout the program year, so we are still currently accepting applications for 2025, as long as we still have funding. And if you applied right now, there is a $350 one-time application fee. However, we do offer sort of an early bird price if you apply August 1st to December 31st of the previous year. So for 2026, we'll open applications August 1st of 2025. So if you apply within that early window of August 1st to December 31st for 2026, it'll be reduced to a $300 application fee. We open that early to get companies in early and make sure they get their allocated funding, make sure they're set up for the year as it starts January 1, and a lot of companies are starting activities early January. And then once you submit the application, I will review it as the FundMatch manager, and if there's anything additional needed in the application, I will send some notes back and forth. But then once it gets approved, you sign a contract just stipulating sort of the regulations of the funding. And then you also have a 6% administration fee, which gets based on the total amount of funding you are requested for the program year. And then you'll go and conduct your activities. And while you're conducting your activities, you're compiling your required documentation that you need to then submit your claim. So we only pay out on a reimbursement basis, and you get paid by submitting a claim. So you'll submit all of your required documentation, and we'll get into specifically what's needed for in-store demos. And then we have 3 dedicated FundMatch claims coordinators who will review our claims. And again, if they need any additional documentation, they will send you a note and ask for it then. And then you get your money paid out to you either via ACH or via check. Like I said, the brands and products of USA is really at the core of the FundMatch program. So we have a US origin requirement for all products that are being promoted through the program, as well as the origin statement needs to be incorporated into all of the activities. So I pulled this chart right from our FundMatch guide, and it lists all of the eligible and ineligible origin statements. So product of USA, grown in USA, made in USA are all eligible, and you can interchange USA in America. You can also use product of, for example, California, grown in Oregon, made in Montana, as long as the state is spelled out in its entirety. You cannot use the abbreviation of CA, OR, or MT. It has to be spelled out in its entirety. We also have for wine of California, any California wines can use that eligible statement. Also for wine and spirits only, you'll see at the bottom there, bottled by or produced in statements are eligible. For example, for a winery, you could say bottled by Gretchen's Vineyard in Napa, California, as long as California is spelled out in its entirety. Some ineligible examples include only having an American flag. That is not eligible. It needs to have that statement of product of USA or another eligible statement. This doesn't apply for in-store demos, but good to know for trade shows, any USA pavilion signs are not eligible. It needs to also be incorporated into your booth, such as the picture we have here. And then any reference to a geographic location in your brand name, such as Bob's American Pizza or Washington Apples, is not eligible. It needs to be separated from your brand name. And then some other examples of ineligible statements include distributed by, manufactured in, produced in, etc., because the focus of the program is about grown in the US products. So those statements are ineligible. So now we're going to get into examples of eligible expenses specifically for in-store demonstration. So this includes temporary labor wages. This could be for a demonstrator, a chef, an interpreter, or a translator. The caveat there is that we need to see on the invoice the rate that they're charging you by the hour, and it also has to comply with the GSA's GS 15 Step 10 federal rate that gets set every year. So for 2025, the highest hourly rate that you can pay a contractor with federal funding is $77.95. So if you're paying someone more than this amount per hour, then we are only going to deem up to the $77.95 eligible, and we will only reimburse 50% of that. Other eligible expenses include disposable demonstration supplies like cups, napkins, spoons, toothpicks, etc. And then any other food ingredients that you want to use to enhance your product as part of the demonstration will be eligible. For example, if you have a cheese product and you wanted to buy bread to accompany that when you're giving out samples, that is eligible. Equipment rentals like hot plates, toasters, refrigerators, etc. This does have to be a rental. It cannot be purchased. Moreover, rented demonstration stand or space that you buy from the retailer or whoever it may be for that demonstration is eligible. Freight or shipping for product samples, equipment, or other materials to that specific demo location is eligible as long as it's through a commercial shipper or carrier. Management or supervision fees Promotional materials like flyers, brochures, pamphlets, etc. However, they must include your brand name and a valid U.S. origin statement on those materials. And then lastly, uniforms like aprons, t-shirts, hats, etc. And again, that has to incorporate your brand name and a valid U.S. origin statement. Some ineligible expenses for in-store demonstrations include employee wages, as well as your foreign distributors' employee wages. So if they're on payroll, you cannot submit for reimbursement for their wages. This also includes travel expenses, and that is travel expenses for your employees, your foreign distributors' employees, as well as independent contractors. So their travel costs and meals will not be eligible through the program. Again, any transportation or meals not covered through in-store demos. Any overtime will not be eligible through the program. We use a standard 8-hour day as an allowable expense. Anything that they've charged over that for a particular day will not be eligible. Training fees and then bonuses and sales commissions are not eligible, as well as sponsorships. Purchase of non-disposable supplies, like I said, like appliances, equipment, anything reusable, like bowls or utensils that are purchased, will not be eligible through the program. Any custom displays that you create that are made of permanent materials having a useful life of more than 1 year, anything made out of things like plexiglass, steel, wood, metal, etc., is not eligible through the program. Freight for your actual product orders is not eligible, just for those materials needed for the demos. The cost to rent a vehicle to transport your product once it's in country, not eligible. This is a big one, the cost of your product used in the demo. That's considered a cost of you doing the business, so that is not eligible. We see a lot of companies try to claim that. Any demonstrations that are tied to a coupon or a price reduction, custom research or market analysis is not eligible. And then any demonstrations that do not display your brand name or a valid U.S. origin statement at the demo will not be eligible. So at the core of every claim that gets submitted to FundMatch, there must be 3 pieces of documentation: invoices, proof of payment, and proof of activity. So for invoices, we need to see the typical information that comes on an invoice, such as the name, address, and contact information of the vendor, each itemized charge expressed as a line item, and then the name of the payer and the company contact information. Then we need to see proof of payment to show that you actually paid that invoice. Typically, we see bank or credit card statements. If you provide this, we will need to see the page of the transaction happened, and then usually the first page of that statement showing the account owner's name. You can blur out or cross out any other transaction lines in that bank statement. We just need to see the one for that invoice that's being submitted for reimbursement. If you paid by check, you'll submit the check image as well as the corresponding bank statement showing the check number and the amount and the date that it came out of your account. And then if you paid by wire, we'll need to see the wire transfer document as well as the corresponding bank statement coming out of your account. Proof of activity looks different for every single FundMatch expense. For in-store demos specifically, we will need the dates, hours, and store locations that those demonstrations took place. If this comes in the form of an agreement between you and the retailer, that's perfect. We will also need a demonstration report for each demo that was performed, just showing what happened, the days, the times, etc., and then verification from the store confirming that this event actually did happen. And then lastly, photos. So we need 1 photo at each demo stand per demo block. The photo has to include, like I said, your brand name and a valid U.S. origin statement. You can see in this photo, the origin statement doesn't have to be very big. They have a flyer that is on a stand at the demo, and the product of USA is right at the bottom of that flyer there. That's perfectly fine as long as we can see it and read it. And then lastly, the photo has to include, of course, the demonstrator or the temporary labor that you're claiming at the demo stand. This company also included the timestamps and the locations as part of the photo, which is perfect as well. So some tips for success before you go and conduct an in-store demo. Prior to your activity, make sure you get into your WUSATA account and verify that the country market that you are conducting your in-store demos in has been approved in your application, as well as the activities listed, and that all of your products that you plan to promote at that in-store demo have been listed and are approved. Any changes that you make to your application afterwards must be, again, approved prior to. And then when you go to submit your actual claim, we recommend gathering all your documentation beforehand, so that way it's really easy for you to start the claim and it makes it a smooth process. And then lastly, when you do submit your claim, the first page of the claim submission, you have to enter your total expenditures. And then on the next page, you have to enter each expense line item individually. If the total of those line items and the total expenditures amount that you entered on the first page don't match, it won't allow you to proceed and submit the claim. Something else I wanted to mention regarding having all of your products approved beforehand is proration. So, like I said, all of your products must be approved in your FundMatch application before the activity occurs. If you market other brands or products that are not approved in your application before the activity takes place, it can be subject to proration. This applies to all sorts of activities and, marketing expenses, including trade shows, trade missions, displays, and in-store demos. So for example, if a company goes to conduct an in-store demo and they are promoting 4 approved products, but they have 2 new ones that they have not yet put in their application and gotten approved, we will have to prorate the claim on a 4 out of 6 basis, or 67%. So if your total claim is $5,000, we will prorate it on that 67%, which is only $3,350, and we only reimburse half. So instead of getting the $2,500 you initially thought you were going to get, you'll only be receiving the $1,675. So that's why it's super, super important to list all of your products in the application beforehand. You can at any point go back to your application, like I mentioned, and add more products. So once you complete your initial application, you can always submit a product amendment. You will again go into your WUSATA account and go to your FundMatch application. You should have this product info tile that's been highlighted here. And you will go in there and upload the product information just as you did in the initial application. And then I review and approve them, and I can do so pretty fast. This same process applies for adding new markets. If you didn't have, say, China in your initial FundMatch application, but you wanted to conduct an in-store demo there later in the year, something you had not initially planned for, you can go in and make a marketing plan amendment. Same process, you'll just hit that marketing plan tile there and add the market. So now I'm going to go into examples of the claim documentation that is needed specifically for in-store demos. So this first example is the documentation needed to support the rented demo stand, as well as the disposable supplies that were used during the demo. So you'll provide us the invoice, and you'll see it has everything such as the dates, the contact information, address, etc. At the top, it has every expense listed as a separate line item. It includes how long each demo was and the rate per demo, as well as the locations of each demo. And then the last line item shows the expense of the disposable supplies that was used, which is perfect. And then they've provided the proof of payment from their bank statement, and the amount and the title of the purchase matches the invoice. And then lastly, the proof of activity. They provide the photo of the in-store demo with their brand name and origin statement, and then they also provided us that report. Second example is for the temporary labor, if that's separated out. Again, you have your invoice for the in-store demo temp labor. You can see each event date, location, time in, time out. You can see how many hours total, and then the rate per hour. So in this case, it's in a foreign currency. You total it up, and you will, if you're paying through your bank will often do that transfer of the currency for you. You can also utilize other sources. We use a website called Awanda to do the transaction between the two currencies. And then you have, again, your proof of payment from your bank. You can clearly see it belongs to our example company, Pearl's Jam, at the top. It has the dates and it has the transaction, which matches the invoice. And again, you have your proof of payment with the photo, with the brand name, origin statement, and the demonstrator behind the stand, and your demo report. Second example is for freight for product samples. So again, you have your invoice from your shipper. That includes the unit price, all of the necessary contact information at the top, the date, and then also provides the list of products that were shipped, which is necessary. And then in this case, they provided proof of payment via a check. So they have the check image and then the corresponding bank statement with the check number and the amount withdrawn. And then again, you have your same proof of activity with the photo and the demo report. Lastly, we have uniforms. So again, you have your invoice from the uniform, or in this case, they're claiming for aprons. The apron manufacturer has the invoice with all the necessary information. There's two separate line items for the 200 aprons and then the shipping and handling fee, which you can claim. And then again, they provided proof of payment for a check with the check image and the corresponding bank statement showing the withdrawal of the check and the matching check numbers. For the proof of activity, we need not only, again, the photo of the demo with the origin statement, brand name, and demonstrator, the demo report, and then also we'll need to see photos of the actual aprons that were made, which include your brand name and the valid U.S. origin statement. So you'll see Joe's Avocados, for example, and then the Grown in California valid origin statement. So to actually go and submit your claim online, you'll log into your WUSATA account. Again, navigate to that FundMatch program tile, and you should have a claims tile under the program year that you're submitting it for. If you don't have a claims tile visible, that means you have not signed your FundMatch application contract or paid your 6% admin invoice. So once those two things are completed, your claims tile will appear and you'll be able to start submitting claims. And then once you click into the claims tile, this is what the view looks like, and you will hit that start claim button in the top right corner. So the whole claims process, just as an overview, you submit that claim and we require you to submit a claim 60 days after the activity has completed. So you have 2 months once that activity is ended to submit the claim for it. Again, our FundMatch claims coordinators will review that claim and they pick them up in the order of them being received. So it just depends at any given time, the volume of claims we have, how fast that will happen. And then if needed, our claims coordinators again will request any additional documentation or information. Once our claims coordinator has reached out asking for that additional supporting documentation, a company has 15 days or 3 weeks, it's 15 business days, to provide that requested documentation, or we will process that claim as is. So we could potentially have line items on your claim that we won't reimburse for because we don't have that documentation for. And then once it is approved, it'll go to payment, and it can take up to 14 to 21 days, depending if you select via check or ACH. So some tips for success: please schedule a consultation, like I mentioned at the beginning, with your engagement executive. You can email export@wusata.com to get connected with your dedicated engagement executive. They are there to guide you through the whole FundMatch process and hold your hand and make sure you're successful in getting this funding. Also, please read our FundMatch guide. It's located on our website. It is a longer document, but it has everything you'll need to know, and it is our one source of truth when it comes to everything FundMatch. And then lastly, you can review any example claims or tutorials again on our website under the FundMatch section. A lot of those example claims is what I pulled for this presentation today. So for each expense type, there is an example claim that you can review and look at. So if you are interested in utilizing FundMatch and you haven't participated yet, you can go to our website, www.wusata.org, and sign up. You'll complete your company information. Our team will vet and approve your company, and then you will be able to participate in any of our programs, not just FundMatch. And all of our WUSATA accounts are free, easy, and confidential. that concludes the FundMatch portion of this webinar. I wanted to also give some space and time to promote some of our upcoming Global Connect events. As I mentioned, that's sort of the second step of our programs with WUSATA. So we have this China pet food outbound mission to China and Hong Kong coming up in August. The deadline to register is the end of June, and it is a $500 participation fee. But it's a really exciting opportunity if you are in the pet food sector. China and Hong Kong are some of the fastest global pet food markets that have been growing. And then the US is the #1 pet food exporter to both of those regions. You have tariff-free access to Hong Kong right now. And the online retail and e-commerce growth is booming, and there is a really strong demand for premium raw and grain-free products. So if you fit into those categories, I definitely recommend signing up. Part of that participation fee includes free registration and the opportunity to exhibit within the WUSATA Pavilion at the Pet Fair Asia show. That also includes market briefings with the USDA ATO offices. And then you will get some one-on-one meetings with qualified buyers, and there's also interpreters there available. And then WUSATA, again, a part of that participation fee covers the hotel lodging for one of your company representatives, ground transportation, in-country airfare from Hong Kong to Shanghai, and then also includes some shipment samples. So if you're interested, you can also apply for FundMatch to help support the cost. So you can claim and receive reimbursement for half of your participation fee, any additional lodging if you're sending another company representative. Your meals and incidental expenses can be claimed for both company representatives, as well as your round-trip airfare from the US and back to the US. Any other freight or shipping you may be utilizing beyond what's offered through the Global Connect program, and then any printed sales materials or giveaways that you want to use at the outbound as well. Your engagement executives, again, can be there to walk you through that if you're interested. And then lastly, we have a Mexico produce inbound to Nevada and Idaho coming up in September. Registration deadline is August 4th. Participation fee is only $50, and this will be an opportunity to connect with qualified Mexican produce buyers. You'll do one-on-one meetings and some field tours. This specifically, I think, is looking for onion producers, and obviously Mexico is a very important export market for the US, and this provides you an opportunity to make some direct relationships with buyers, importers, and distributors. And yeah, the itinerary is here. So if you're a Nevada or Idaho company and interested, you can sign up on our events page. But also, if you're not in Idaho or Nevada and you are nearby and want to make the trip out to any of those cities listed, then you're welcome to participate as well. With that, that concludes the webinar. So thank you all for participating. You can always reach out to myself via fundmatch@wusata.org. You can always reach us on our social media or find more information on our website as well. And if you're interested, you can join us next month for our webinar on international in-store displays. And we have a FundMatch webinar each month, so you can again go to our events calendar and sign up for other ones there.